The New York Jets are currently 2-3, and they're second in the NFC East right now. But the offenses look terrible so far throughout these first 5 weeks of the season. Let's start with Aaron Rodgers. Through these 5 games, he's completed 61% of his passes, has 1,000 yards, averaging 6 yards per pass, 218 yards per game, has 7 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And he's been sacked 13 times for a total loss of 98 yards with those 13 sacks. So he's really getting over a touchdown a game, and he's getting. In the last game he just had against the Vikings, he had 3 interceptions. So before that, he only had 1 interception throughout the season. But Rodgers hasn't been good this year. He hasn't been able to scramble. He's had 11 carries for 44 yards, but it just seems like watching these Jets games, he stayed in that pocket most of the time. Almost had an injury scare in the Vikings game. But speaking of all their games, this team hasn't put up 30 points yet, and they have a really on paper, this offense looks really good. The first 2 games, Aaron Rodgers had under 200 passing yards. They lost the first one to the 49ers. And Brees Hall only ran for 54 yards. And Brees Hall is yet to crack 100 yards this year, a game with 100 yards. He had to get to 70 even. But yeah, Rodgers, he had 167 in week 1 in the loss to the 49ers. That loss was excusable. They played bad. It was week 1. And the 49ers, they always one of the better teams in the league. Then week 2, they barely beat the Titans. They won 24-17. Week 3, they beat the Patriots 24-3. Aaron Rodgers had a great game with 281 yards. And Braylon Allen was the leading running back that game. But in these last 2 games, and really all season, they haven't done much on offense. They just look bad. They scored 9 points against the Broncos, who have a really good defense. The Broncos won that game 10-9. But when you have Aaron Rodgers, Brees Hall, Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, you should be able to get at least 1 touchdown every game. This was the only game this season that they didn't get a touchdown, and they lost it by 1. The defense held the Broncos to 10 points. It's just a touchdown and a field goal. So that was really good defense by the Jets in that game. And the Jets, their problems haven't been the defense. It's really just been the offense. This last game against the Vikings, which I woke up early to see that game, they got down 17-0 early. And Brees Hall was the leading rusher for only 23 yards. Aaron Rodgers, he had 244 yards. But he had 3 interceptions and a touchdown. He had 2 more interceptions than he had touchdowns. And all these teams that played have been solid defensive teams, especially the last 2. It's like it's the offense just isn't doing enough. Look at Rodgers. Even like his stats look decent, especially for a guy that's his age. But then when you look at the running back room, the offensive line, they're not doing enough to create holes for the running backs. And we're just looking at Brees Hall and Braylon Allen here. Brees Hall has 65 carries for 197 yards, and it's only averaging 3 yards per carry. He has 2 touchdowns on the season, and he has a fumble. As the running back, he should be averaging at least 4 yards per carry. It doesn't make sense that he's only averaging 3. So I don't know if that's the O-line. It seems like it's a bit of both with the O-line and Brees Hall. It's like they don't have, his longest run was 30 yards so far this year. Then Braylon Allen, rookie running back, he's had 32 carries for 143 yards with a 4.5 average. And his longest run is 20 yards, and he had a touchdown. But Brees Hall is averaging 39.4 yards per game. Braylon Allen is averaging 28.6. You're not finna do nothing when your 2 running backs, when your leading running back isn't able to get 4 yards per carry. It's very difficult for your team to win. Then Garrett Wilson, he's been off to a solid start. Has 33 receptions and 56 targets, 292 yards. Has 2 touchdowns, averaging 8.8 yards per catch. He did lose a fumble though, but aside from that, it's been pretty solid. Allen Lazard, he has 20 receptions, 240 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He's actually leading the team in touchdowns, which I think the receiving core is, they could definitely use a guy like Devontae Adams, because you have Garrett Wilson, you have Allen Lazard, you have Mike Williams. But and one of them, and obviously you're going to keep Garrett Wilson because he's the star wide receiver on your team. But if they could get rid of Allen Lazard and Mike Williams, because both of those guys are rich, with Lazard being older and Williams having injury problems. I know the Jets will definitely want to be able to get Devontae Adams, but it seems unlikely. Garrett Wilson, he spoke about how the plays, they're just repetitive. There's no creativity in the offense, and he's right. There's an unholy amount of screen routes that they run. They can't go deep, because when they try to go deep, it ends in interceptions like we saw in the Vikings game, or it just ends in an incomplete pass. Rodgers and Robert Saleh, they're not getting along, so there's a conflict not only with your head coach and your starting quarterback, but offense, your star receiver feels like you aren't doing enough to win these games, and it's like their playbook is so easy to read. It's not hard to beat the Jets. And you're looking at their schedule next week, they play Buffalo, and the Bills haven't been hot either, and I don't know if Josh Allen will play that game. That's a story for a different day, but they'll probably lose that game and be 2-4 after week 6. And it's like the Jets preseason, they look, and I do still think the Jets are a playoff team if they can get the offense together, but I never looked at this team like a Super Bowl contender. They can definitely be a playoff team, but they haven't played like it so far throughout the first 5 weeks of the season. And 5 weeks, it's a small sample size, but looking at this and what they've done so far, Breece Hall only has 197 rushing yards on the season. But yeah, this team, they need to pick it up fast, because if they don't, they'll probably be missing the playoffs again. But yeah, that's it for this video. Leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you thought about, what you think about the Jets offense. And that's it for this video.